Mrs. Grossman's not here. Okay. She hears from the kitchen. Okay, great. Thanking Mrs. Grossman for inviting me. And it's actually beautiful to find out that, I feel now part of the family. I know the son-in-law from probably 20 years ago. So, Baruch Hashem. And also, I find as I walk into, every time I walk into like a shir in a house on we'll call it a random Tuesday morning, I always feel how just incredible, everyone has jobs, everyone has families, everyone has houses. And then you find out that tucked away in someone's house, there's a bunch of, wonderful people getting together to learn a little bit Torah, gain a little bit of inspiration. I always find it to be inspiring for myself to just to see what people are up to. It's absolutely, absolutely incredible. So I'd like to discuss today a very fundamental topic. A topic which is almost too fundamental, which sometimes when things are so fundamental, you feel like how could you even tackle them in one session, in one shir, in one time. And the topic I'd like to talk about is, what is a Jew, a Yid, a Yehudi? What are we? How do we define who we are? And in case that's not a large enough topic, let's go a little more broad. What is Klal Yisrael? What are we? We're a wonderful nation. We're an incredible people. What is Klal Yisrael? So we're going to take an incredibly large topic in not an incredibly long amount of time. Don't get nervous. Although from the spread here, we probably could spend a few hours. But let's try to dive right in. And the beauty of a shir on a Tuesday is it really gives you two topics to pick from. We could go last week Vayetze. We could go this coming week Vayishlach, because we're right in the middle. And these two answers, I'm going to try to pick one from Vayetze, one from Vayishlach. So we wrap up last week, we move ahead to this week, and hopefully walk away realizing a little bit more who we are, what we're all about, and what should that do in our personal daily life. So a Yid, a Yehudi, of course, where does the word come from? It comes from last week's parsha. Famous. It's become more famous as time has gone on and songs have been composed. Leah names her son, of course, we all know, Yehuda Hapam Oides Hashem. And also, I should introduce that, when we go through Bereshis, sometimes, our knowledge of Bereshis is what we learned when we're in kindergarten, pre-1A. And then our children and our grandchildren reteach us the same parsha that we learned. And it's so exciting, and the same projects, and the same, but maybe sometimes we should stop and think, there's probably something a little bit deeper there. So hopefully within what we discussed today, we'll realize that even within the very basic ideas, there's something so much more. So Leah names her son Yehuda. Hapam Oides Hashem. We all know why she thanks Hashem for her child. And I am absolutely sure that over the last week, everyone at some level has heard Yehuda, Hapam Oides Hashem. Maybe we sung this song, maybe we didn't. Realizing how we have to be grateful, realizing how we have to be thankful, the power of Haidah, the power of thanks, and it's all incredible. But let's just explain how deep it goes that the Chedushei Urim says, why are we called Yehudim? Because at the nature, what is a Yehudi? One that thinks, one that realizes and is cognizant at every moment of his day, I am a piece of God and I have what to be thankful of. I am a Yehudi. So let's delve a little bit deeper. So Leah names her son Yehuda. Hapam Oides Hashem. How important is thanks? Okay, how important is it? So in the secular world that we live in, they'll all tell you it makes you happy, it makes you mindful, it makes you spiritual, and that's all true. That's all absolutely true. But I want to go a drop further, and let's bring out a skula. Everyone likes to hear a nice segula. It's always a nice thing. So hopefully if you walk away with nothing else, you'll have a nice skula to take home. A skula from whom? So we hear skulas from Rebbas, from Tzaddikin, from Babas, from everyone. So a skula from Yirmiyahu Hanavi. A Navi, a skula from a Navi. This school of Yirmiyahu Hanavi was made famous by Rav Shimshon Pincus, and it goes as follows. There's a pasuk which also became famous from a song, but I don't know if the context is so famous. Kumi roini ba'layla. Get up and sing at night. Kumi roini ba'layla. A little bit of an older song. I don't know if people remember. Okay, we won't start singing now. Kumi roini ba'layla. Let's get up and sing at night. Oh, beautiful singing songs. Incredible. But if anyone knows Nach, which they claim that girls do more than boys, but we won't test anyone over here because seminary was a few years ago. Kumi roini balayla. What was going on? What was the context of Yirmiyahu Hanavi over here? So the context of Yirmiyahu Hanavi were there were children dying right and left. And it was a terrible plague, and no one knew what to do. So Yirmiyahu Hanavi gets up and says, oh, we don't know what to do? Let's get up at night and start singing to Hashem. And everyone's saying, Yirmiyahu Hanavi, it's a little bit sadistic. It's not really the time for a party. Let's get up and sing to Hashem because there's a plague, because we don't know what to do. And explains Rav Shimshon Pincus, yes. Sometimes, in the worst of moments, we try everything. We do the Tehillim, and we do the Kabbalahs, and we do the Tefillos, and we do even fasting, says Rav Shimshon Pincus. But at times, what's necessary is something a little bit deeper. What's deeper than all of that? Deeper is to tap into the essence of a Jew, of a Yehudi, as we said, which comes to the word haida'ah, to thanks. So at the worst moments when we stop and we thank Hashem, Kuni roini ba'alayla, get up and sing. What are you singing? Praise and thank Hashem. That's how you'll get your tefillah answered. And Shimshon Pincus writes incredible stories how there were towns that had droughts and they had no clue what to do and they tried everything. And then one day the Rav called everyone together and said, we're having a party Tuesday morning at the town square. And I said, party, Rav, what are you doing? He said, yes, everyone come. And they served good food. And they went and they started singing and praising and finding areas to thank Hashem. And the drought was healed. And the rain started coming. So Apam Oides Hashem, it's a beautiful song, it's a wonderful ideology. Thank you Hashem, Baruch Hashem. But realize how deep it goes. And sometimes it's specifically at those horrible moments that no one wants to. I'm at a low moment. I'm not interested in saying thank you Hashem. And the Ish Kodesh, the Pizetzner Rebbe, gives us comfort. He's sitting in the ghetto, in the Warsaw ghetto, and in his memoirs, he writes that there are times you don't want to thank Hashem. Why not? And he gives a few different reasons. He says, because maybe you feel that the goodness is going to stop tomorrow. He was healed from typhus. He had a son-in-law that was healed from typhus within the Warsaw ghetto. And he's writing his own personal internal struggles that how could I thank Hashem right now? Oh, I'm saved. Yeah, but guess what? A Nazi might come and shoot me tomorrow. So how could I thank Hashem at this moment? And he says other times we feel, how could I thank Hashem? Because we look around at the world and we see, okay, I have good things. But what about everyone else? And we feel it's almost coming from a place of guilt. And the writes the Ish Kodesh that all this is the Yetzer Hara trying to stop us from doing what we're supposed to be doing. And at every moment, don't worry about what's going to be tomorrow, and don't worry about the rest of the world, and don't worry about everything else. Find something to be thankful for. And sometimes it's at those worst moments. And we could tell stories the whole day, and I'm sure you all here know more stories than I do. The people who didn't have children for 20 years, they went to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe said, I have advice for you, but you don't want to hear it. I said, what do you mean? He said, I have advice, but you don't want to hear it. He said, no, you want to hear it. That's why we came. No, I'm telling you, you don't want to hear what I have to say. No, tell us. I'm telling you, you don't want to. Push. Okay, I'll tell you. Okay, so what's the advice? Be thankful to Hashem. Person starts screaming, storms out of the room. Comes home, sitting husband and wife together. Wife turns to husband in tears, says, chutzpah. That's what he tells us. And the husband, obviously a little bit less emotional, starts thinking, well, we sort of asked for it. He didn't want to tell it to us. We sort of asked for it and we pushed for it. And over time, a few days later, they came to their senses, and the woman says, you know what? Maybe. And they started a little bit in their terrible situation, in their world that everything was dark and bleak and they couldn't see anything else. And they started finding areas. We could be thankful for this and perhaps for that. And of course, every good story, or else it's not a good story, ends favorably because we don't hear about the other ones, that Baruch Hashem, the child was born. But what we see is to be a Yehudi, to be Yehudim, to be Jews, what is the definition? Is are thankful people in all scenarios. But that, I think, at some level, everyone here knew. So I want to go one step further. Says the Ksav Sefer, what was the big deal about Leah? So she thanked Hashem, she had a child, I think. Many people have children, many people are thankful. The Gemara Bracha says, Leah, she was the first one. Says the Gemara Bracha, Lo haya adam shehoida lakadosh baruch hu until Leah came. What's the big deal? So the way the Ksav Sefer answers it is as follows. It says in the Gemara, anyone who says Hallel 2 times, Akari Hallel b'chol yoim, is so we would think, the greatest person out there. We're talking about praising. We're talking about thankful. You say Hallel, you're that thankful to Hashem? HaKairi Hallel b'chol yoim, Harizeh macharif umegadif. You're cursing and blaspheming, in the words of Art Scroll, God. Why? You're incredible. You're doing what we spoke about. Maybe someone who just would have walked out a moment ago would have thought that's the most incredible level. Says the Ksav Sefer, what does it mean you said Hallel 2 times? That means you're realizing and you're cognizant, Yitzias Mitzrayim. Hashem has done incredible miracles for us. Says the Ksav Sefer, 1 second. Can you like zoom in a little bit? You're thinking about all the big things out there, but in your personal life, you don't have what to be thankful for. You're busy focusing on Hallel, on the big things. And what about the fact that you're awake and you're alive and kids and family and job and money and health and house and everything else that everyone has something of? And says the Ksav Sefer, that's why Leah was so incredible. Because everyone's thankful at every child, but are we thankful at every small little detail? Leah calling your son Yehuda, which the Mahamshik says one step further. So every time she called that child, how many times do we say our children's name a day? Unfortunately, maybe a little bit too much. We have to find different ways to call them, different names that they know we're upset and we're happy and we're this and we're that. But with each time we call, each time Leah said Yehuda, she was remembering, I have to be thankful to Hashem. That was the greatness. So Akariya Hallel B'chol Yom, wonderful. You're thinking about these wonderful, lofty ideas. Great, wonderful, beautiful. No, think about the small things in your personal life. But now, that's in the general sense of being thankful. I'm sure many things we just said were known to many people. Perhaps the fact that it's a skula, it's like, okay, you put the word skula in front of it, it makes it a little bit more enticable. Now I know, okay, it's not just a nice thing, maybe, which is true. And we really could focus more on that, and we could say that every time that we say thank you Hashem, and every time maybe we see thank you Hashem, and every time that we sing thank you Hashem, and every time we click thank you Hashem, if we actually were to mean it, and to stop and think about it for a split second, our lives would be completely different. But I want to go one step deeper. The end of this pasuk that we're talking about, Vatar oid, Vateled bein, she became pregnant, she gave birth, Vataimer, Hapam oides Hashem, Al Kain, Kara Shemoy Yehuda. The pasuk doesn't end there. The pasuk continues, Vata'amoid milades, and she stopped giving birth. So a normal person reading the pasuk says, oh, it's the story. She had the child, she had her share, and now she stopped giving birth. Very normal. Says the Balaturim, says the Tur, not in Balaturim, he has a pirush on the Chumash. He says, Vatamoy milades, because she thanked Hashem, she stopped giving birth. Whoa, we're sitting here thinking Hashem is incredible. Skula from Yirmiyahu Hanavi, we are Yehudim, we are entities of people that are thankful, that find areas to thank. And the Tur is saying, Vatamoy milades, because she was thankful. She could have had more children. How that would have worked out, leave it up to God to figure out the amount of children and who's going to have what. But says the Tur, the pasuk here, right after, Hapam oides Hashem, therefore she called her Yehuda, she stopped giving birth. Cause, effect. What's going on? Says the Tur, what are you supposed to do after you're thankful? Well, what do you mean? I'm thankful. I'm a Yehudi. That's what I do. That's what I am. Says the Tur, no. What we do after we're thankful is we ask for more. We're that chutzpahdik child, you just gave him the 17th candy, and he wants an 18th. We're that kid that we just bought him this massive Hanukkah present, I want that one. We're that child, I could continue, but let's stop. Maybe you're going to realize what's going on with my children at home. My wife's here, it's not nice. Says the Tur, the difference is we're human beings. Number one, finite beings without unlimited resources. And even in the world of chinuch, of course, we don't have to make this about money. Even in the world of chinuch, we have to teach people how much and when and how. God is infinite. There's no such thing as enough. It's impossible to say, thank you, I'm good. What do you mean? It never should end. We are Yehudim because it should never end. Leah, the first person to be thankful, beautiful. But she missed the boat. When you're thankful, when you're tapping in, when you're connected, at that moment, you have the power of bakasha. You have the incredible koyach to ask Hashem for something. And in truth, we do this every day. What's our tefillos? Psuki de Zimra, praises, Shemay Nasrei. Mincha starts with Ashrei, praises, Shemay Nasrei. Within Shemay Nasrei, Maidim, thanks, Sim Shalom. The bracha, the highest bracha is Shalom that encapsulates everything. So says the Torah, don't sell yourself short. Don't just be thankful. Don't only find areas to say thank you, to connect to Hashem, different ways, which is incredible. But realize right at that moment, you could ask Hashem for anything. The floodgates are open. And if we think about it on a very deep level, it makes a lot of sense. Because the more that we're connected, the more that we're thankful, the more that we find even smaller, more minute areas to thank Hashem, the more we're showing Hashem we're dependent upon Him. So of course we could ask Him for more. Rav Aryeh Finkel, one year on Leil Rosh Hashanah night, they're walking out of the Mir Yeshiva in Yerushalayim, and a bunch of boys are walking with him, and they're discussing, there's different opinions. Do we ask Hashem for things on Rosh Hashanah? Do we just daven on Rosh Hashanah for other things? And Rav Aryeh Finkel turns to the boys and says, ask Hashem on Rosh Hashanah, but ask for bread and milk. Everyone looks at each other, ask for bread and milk. Rebbe, come on, that of course we have. And he explained, when you're asking for bread and milk, when you're connecting and realizing that even the simple piece of bread and the cup of water came from Hashem, that means you're the most connected possible. When the kid thanks us for a big thing, okay, obvious. But when the kid realizes the little things, that means they're really realizing how much we do for them. So apam oides Hashem, but don't be vatam oid milades. Don't say, this is wild, I can't believe, God, you're incredible, thank you, nishmas, halal, everything. Great, and now ask Hashem for more. I want more bracha. I want more things to be thankful for. And I'll conclude this part with a story from Rav Scheinberg. Who's a man comes into Rav Scheinberg. I heard this story from someone in the room, but of course, every story is a story. Someone comes into Rav Scheinberg, and Rav Scheinberg at the end of his life, his bracha rate was out of this world, similar to what was going on in Rav Chaim Kanievsky at the end of his life. No one even understood, and they'll fill up books one after another, and we'll just read them and say, oh, well, normal. No, not normal. But Rav Chaim Scheinberg, someone comes into his house, someone comes into his study, and says, Rosh Hashiva, I need a bracha. Okay, what do you need a bracha for? Rosh Hashiva, I have two daughters in Shidduchim. One is, I think the numbers were 27, one is 29. I need a bracha for Shidduchim. And Rosh Scheinberg stops for a moment and he looks up and he says, be thankful for what you have. And the person starts getting emotional. I said, Rosh Hashiva, please, just a bracha, just a bracha. And again he says, I told you, be thankful for what you have. And now the people in the room are getting uncomfortable. And they're thinking, did the Rosh Hashiva hear what he said? It's not his style, it's so not nice. Come on. And one of the people in the room says, Rebbe, just a bracha. And they know, you got to get the words out of the mouth, straight from God. And he says, be thankful. And then one more time someone pushes, and of course the man leaves the study. And similar to the story we said before, the man flies back to America, all upset, didn't get his bracha. The people in the room are trying to figure out what exactly happened. And the man gets home, and the man starts to think about what he was told. And the man starts realizing, okay, maybe he was telling me something. Let's be thankful. So he starts trying to be thankful. And then, whether it was Rav Scheinberg mentioned someone in the room, whether it was that he got through someone to Rav Scheinberg, however the connections happened, however he got a little bit more of an explanation of what Rav Scheinberg was trying to tell him. The point was, be thankful and then daven. Be thankful and daven. A few weeks later, as every good story goes, phone rings in Rosh Scheinberg's house. Rosh Hashiva, Baruch Hashem, my 29-year-old daughter became a Kala. But now, Rosh Hashiva, I have a 31-year-old daughter. And it's terrible. I need a bracha. And Rosh Scheinberg says, I told you already. Be thankful for what you have and ask Hashem for more. And of course, every good story has a beautiful ending, and the 31-year-old girl became engaged. But it's Leah. We don't want to be Vatamoy Miledes. We don't want to just be Apamoy Des Hashem. We don't want to merely be Yehudim. We don't want to only be saying Hallel. We have to start with the Hallel and the grand things in life, boil it down to smaller and smaller and smaller areas. And as we get there and as we connect and as we realize it's even the bread, it's even the milk, it's even the mere lighting and the air that we breathe and everything, then we start asking Hashem for more. And then we start saying, you're infinite. You gave me this incredible thing. I want more and more and more. And that's why we're called Yehudim. That is what a Jew is. And the more that we think about this idea, the more we're going to be connecting to Hashem. The more we're going to be connecting to Hashem, the more we'll be able to be thankful, the more we'll be able to ask for more. And the more we'll be able to increase the goodness in our life on one angle. But the truth is, life is much deeper than that, as we all know. And the connection itself is the greatest goodness in life. And someone might think, but wait, what if it doesn't work? And if the school doesn't work, should I try it? What's the success rate? Maybe I should try this one and that one. But the beauty of this idea of Yirmiyahu HaNavi is even if it doesn't work, it works. First of all, no such thing as doesn't work. We could talk and talk, as we all know, how no tefillah goes for naught. But here it's so much deeper. It's dealing with the fundamental connection of each person to our Father in heaven, of why we are a Yehudi. So that's in the singular approach. What's a Yehudi? But now let's go to the next step. What's Klal Yisrael? Okay, we tackled area number 1. We utilized Parshas Vayetze. We utilized Leon, Apam, Moedes Hashem, a wonderful skula, a wonderful bracha, incredible ideas. Now we know a little bit more what we are. But now let's zoom out a little bit. What's Klal Yisrael? What's Klal Yisrael? So that brings us, of course, to Parshas Vayishlach. One of the most famous stories, Yaakov Avinu fighting with a malach, literal seeming combat of life and death. And it ends with the malach telling Yaakov Avinu, Vayomer lo Yaakov yimer oid shemecha, your name is no longer Yaakov, ki im Yisrael. So where does Klal Yisrael come from? Where do we get our name? From this battle, from this tuggle, from this fight between an angel of God, which if we're thinking about sounds odd, how an angel's fighting with man, which we'll talk about, between an angel of God and Yaakov Avinu. That's where we receive the name Klal Yisrael. Ki sarisa, because you fought. Vatuchal im Elokim, v'manashim vatuchal, and you won. And the obvious question is, if we had a choice, call Yisrael or Tuchal. Tuchal means you won. Yisrael means you fought. Which one is it? So obviously we would choose you won. No, we tell the kids it's not about winning, it's about the game. Yeah, okay. Okay, sometimes you watch the parents more competitive than the kids. I'm not going to lose this game of checkers, But the kid's cheating. The kids try to play. Maybe now you know more about my children. So, kisarisa, because you fought. Why are we called Klal Yisrael? We're called Klal Yisrael because of the battle, because we fought. This is another one that's become a little bit famous with songs. You fall down, you get back up. It's all about the battle. I recently heard from a mashgiach in Eretz Yisrael. He says, we have to be a little bit careful. You're singing about falling so much. Sometimes encourages to fall. But sarisa, it's the battle. It's the getting back up. And what's very interesting is in Mesilas Yesharim, in the very beginning, I actually have a newfound appreciation for Mesilas Yesharim. There's this wonderful Hachslik program. I don't know if anyone has seen it. It's learning Mesilas Yesharim daily. Pretty sure a woman can learn Mesilas Yesharim as well, just about being good people, being better people. And Mesilas Yesharim teaches us what's the Iker Mitzias Adam. What are we? So we spoke already that in our relationship to Hashem, we are Yehudim, we're entities of thanks, we're people to trying to find areas to connect. What's the Iker Mitzias Adam? Ba'ilam Hazeh. So if we were to take a poll, which we're not going to do, I think we'd all get the first two. Rak l'kayim mitzvahs. Okay, that makes sense. V'la avoid, and to serve Hashem. So I think, and most people stop the sentence here. What are we here for? We are for mitzvahs and to serve Hashem. What's mitzvahs? Mitzvahs are chasadim. What's serving Hashem? Tefillah and Torah. And there you go. You got the three pillars of the world. This world stands on Torah, Avodah, and Gemilas Chasadim. But the Mesil Shem doesn't stop. So something's funny here. He's teaching us what is the ikar, the main mitzias, the mohus, the entity of a human being. And he goes further. Mesil Shem, there are only three pillars of the world. You're sort of throwing in a fourth. What's this entity? He says, V'la'amoid b'nisayon. The ikar creation of man is do mitzvahs, serve Hashem, and withstand tests. If we think about this on a deep level, it's not a fourth pillar, it's what's holding up the three pillars. Or to put it more precise, what's trying to break each pillar is la'amoid b'nisayon. The tests, the trials, the tribulations, the struggles, the temptations that we have throughout every moment of our life is that which tries to take our Torah, our Avodah Tefillah, and our Gemilas Chasadim, and tries to make it crumble, and tries to chip away at it. Our Tefillah, the temptations to not daven, to not have kavanah, to not have time to daven, to not have time to connect. The Chasadim, the struggles of how could I do it? Is it the right thing to do? I don't have time to do it. And then we start with all the reasons why it's probably a mitzvah to not to do it. What is all of that? That's all la'amoid b'nisayon. That's all the Yetzer Hara trying to get us to stop our Torah avoiding Gemilas Chasadim. So Mesil Yesharim is reminding us, when we focus on life, we can't just focus on tefillah, mitzvahs, chasadim. It's a critical importance. We have to realize that the struggles are not a mistake. Like, oh, whoops, God slipped a little bit and this happened to me and now I have to deal with it. Or because I did something wrong, all our sadistic minds, so God is punishing me, so now I have to deal with it. No, this is integral to creation, to each and every person, is la'amoid b'nisayon, is figuring out ways of dealing with the issues, with the temptations. And this was the battle that Yaakov Avinu was having. Yaakov Avinu was fighting with an angel. The angel cannot understand, how is there a mere mortal fighting with me? The angel asks the Baal HaTurim, was questioning, what is this entity fighting with me? How am I not winning? Says the Baal HaTurim, do you know why the angel hit Yaakov Avinu bekaf Yerecha in his thigh? This goes into a little bit of the deeper understandings of what's going on. Says the Baal HaTurim, Lirois, the angel was trying to see and test, Im hu malach kamaisam. Is this person in front of me a malach, an angel, or a human being? What's the test? Im hayuloi kfatzim. Does he have joints? Shamalachim ein lam kfatzim. Malachim have no joints. So the angel went and hit Yaakov Avinu in his thigh, in a joint, to see, is this person a man or an angel? And he obviously realized what it was. Absolutely incredible. But you know what it teaches us? A man can be so great that the angel could think he's an angel, to the extent that the malach has to test, what is this thing in front of me? And where is this greatness portrayed? Not in Yaakov Avinu's years of last week's parsha that he sat in Yeshivas Shem Ve'ever. Not in the time that he dealt with Chasadim, with Lavan. Not in the but in the battle with the angel, which we're teaching is the what? Is the Yisrael, the Sarisa, the Yetzer Hara. The angel was Samael, the Samach Mem. What does the word Samael come from? Says the Kli Yakar. Comes from Samat, blind. It's the temptations that blind us every day. So the angel, the temptations, the Yetzer Hara, trying to make us not see. When we fight, we are angelic. When we fight the battle and we don't just succumb, the angel himself looks at us and says, what is this thing? Is this thing man or not? And that's where we got the name Yisrael. That's where we got the this idea of Klal Yisrael. That's the Sarisa, that's the battle. But to conclude with one step deeper, and then we'll try to wrap everything up, is how do we do that? Sounds like a tall order. Sarisa, to always fight, to never succumb, to take all the temptations of life, all the screaming children's and parnasa and health and family and world and neighborhood and neighbors, interpersonal relationships, relationships with God, relationships with ourselves, relationships with family, temptations outside and inside, to yes do, to not do, chasadim and mitzvahs and Torah and tefillah, and to never succumb, and to never be blinded, to never let the samael, the kliyakar, the blinding, to never let it blind us. It sounds like a tall order. We can understand why it makes us angelic, but it sounds very difficult. So the Arizal, I don't know where I saw this Arizal, I don't learn Arizal, it was in my notes, I probably found it somewhere, explains Yaakov Avinu was going back for the Pacham Ketanim. He's going back, that was the story. And I think this is one story that, a lot of the deeper explanations people know. What were the Pacham Ketanim? It's Chanukah time. It was the oil for the Ner Chanukah, some of Farshim explain. It was the oil that he poured for on the rock. All beautiful ideas. But the Arizal explains, why was Yaakov Avinu going back? The question we all have, and we get different answers, and they're a little bit difficult. You finally packed up the whole car. You finally left. You get onto the highway, and we'll blame it on your husband and my wife. We left the Q-tips at home. Okay, you'll do without a Q-tip. Move on in life. No, we left the water bottle at home. Okay, we'll stop at the gas station. We left, we'll figure it out. Please don't go back. Once you go back, then the kid needs the bathroom. This one needs a treat, and this one, he forgot his this. No, don't do it. Yaakov Avinu going back, and he goes back himself in the middle of the night. And that's when this whole battle occurs. Says that Arizal, he went back for these small jugs. You know why? So the basic idea we've heard is Sadiqim chavivim alehem emaynim. A tzaddik loves his money, which we hear this and we feel strange because we think, what do you mean Tzaddikim love their money? We live in a world of, no, money is bad. I don't know where that world came from. Money is good or bad. It's everything in this world. It can be utilized for wonderful things. It can be utilized for horrible things. It can be utilized for tzedakah and chasadim, and it can be utilized for nothingness. So no entity is inherent bad. Tzaddikim love their money. If a tzaddik has money, he could give tzedakah. He could do incredible things with it. Okay, but Yaakov Avinu, you left a few pennies. Get over it. Says the Arizal, Ki li yois shu nishba milamala. If this is something that came to me from on high, ein ra'ui she'imayis bay. I can't make little of it. Ki im lo haya tzarech bay. If there was no reason for this, lo haya nasin lai Kadosh Baruch Hu. Hashem wouldn't have given it to me. If Hashem gave it to me, there's a purpose. Ulachein chazer Yaakov al afachim ketanim. Ki im lo haya chazer, it would have seemed as if they were nothing. This is an idea that could be thought about in the physical sense and thought about in our own physical sense. And let me explain. In the physical sense, Yaakov Avinu knew if Hashem gave me something, there's a reason for it. I had these jugs. There's a reason God made me have them, so I must go get them. And maybe with that understanding, we say, and that's where it ended up being the Nes Chanukah from those jugs. So if he didn't go back and get them, if he would have said, who needs those jugs? I don't know what would have happened in Chanukah time. So when Hashem gives me something, there's importance. Now, we put a caveat in. This is not to make people OCD and crazy about, every penny that they have. And there's certainly a world of bitachon and menuchas hanefesh that we're supposed to say, okay, it happened and move on. So we have to sometimes be a little bit careful. But if Hashem gave you something, those words, if Hashem gave you something, there's a reason for it. Ein roi she'ima'is bay. Everything that we are given, from ourselves, to our spouses, to our families, to our surroundings, to our internal kaiches, our things that we could do, there's a reason Hashem gave it to us. Why did Hashem create me with this ability and not that ability? Why did Hashem create me with this temperament and not that temperament? Why did Hashem create me with this capability to do this and not that? Every person has his own makeup. Obviously, part of our work in this world is to form ourselves and make ourselves better. Like Rizal Slanter said, you could work an entire lifetime to fix one midah. But what we have, there's a reason for it. Yaakov Avinu is teaching us, whatever we have, there's a reason for it. Whatever happens to us, there's a reason for it. There was a battle, there was a struggle. Hashem is telling you, you could overcome that. Rav Tzaddik writes, many write, that the areas that we have our biggest struggles is the way that we could find out where incredible kaiches lie. Wherever we have the biggest issue, that means Hashem is telling us and tapping us on the shoulder, you have a capability in that area. A person who gets into fights all the time, Hashem is saying, you have the ability to be calm. What? Yeah, because that's why Hashem is continuously testing you with that entity. And of course, every test is tailor-made, a perfect tailor-made suit or gown without 1 inch anywhere extra. So every entity that happens to us is Hashem talking to us and saying, you could do this. So when we approach the Sarisa, when we think about Klal Yisrael and we try to figure out how could we be these entities that always battle, that never succumb? How could we be something that is on the level of a malach, that whenever we have a temptation, we don't give in. And whenever we have a desire, we don't give in. And we know what's right. And of course, in each and every area, there's always discussions that have to be had. What is right and what isn't right and what I should do and what I shouldn't do. But we're talking once we figure out what we're supposed to be doing, which of course, that part is very difficult also. But once we figure out what we're supposed to be doing, we know that this person called and we know we should get up and go and give them a pot of soup. We know it. But we just don't want to. We're just not interested. The person wasn't nice to us. They didn't send me the pot of soup. They don't deserve it. They should just order it. They have enough money. All the wonderful millions of excuses. But we know what we're supposed to do. At that moment, Sarisa, you're part of Klal Yisrael. The battle. You have a battle right now. Be a malach. You could be a malach right now. When you get up and you go and you do what you have to do. And then when we do that, the malachim look at us and say, what is this thing? Is this thing a man or is this thing an angel? How did this person get up and do it? This person was so tired. How did he get up and still daven? They were so upset and they still managed to dress the right way and they still managed to look this way and they still managed to not do that. And they still went over. How do they do that? And the malach says, I have to hit this thing. Is this a malach or is this an angel? And that's how, hopefully, when we realize our own kaiches, and it's such an important thing, people go through their entire lives. Easy for someone to say that's younger than everyone else in this room. But people, that's what they say, so I'll repeat it. People go through their entire lives not knowing their own kaiches. Find them. Find them. What does that mean? Every person has to start the next worldwide organization? Absolutely not. But everyone has their own kaiches and could do something with it. Something can mean between you and yourself. It doesn't have to even be between anyone. That you have something that you're going to work on and you're going to do something. And you're going to find that time and you're going to be that person that says Tehillim. Or you're going to be that person, whatever. I don't have to give examples. Examples are infinite. Maybe it does involve other people. Maybe it doesn't. But we have our kaiches. Hashem gave us pachim kitanim. Hashem gave us little jugs. Don't just leave them there. Don't just say, there was no purpose for that. So why did God give it to you? And with that understanding, when we get the challenges, the temptations, we'll be able to be the Klal Yisrael. And I want to conclude with one story, which I think could really tie everything together. Because when I thought about these ideas, and when I put it onto paper, I was hit with a problem at the end. My problem was, this is very lofty, very grand, perhaps practical, but why do we not do these things? So much here is so simple. To praise Hashem is obvious. To thank Hashem is we know about. To not fall to temptations we understood. So why don't we do it? Okay, so part of the reason is we always need chizuk, we always need inspiration, and that's why we get together, and that's why this is absolutely, as I started before, is mind-boggling to see on a random Tuesday morning people take off time of whatever they're doing. To do what? To come and get a little inspiration. But I was thinking that maybe there's a detail that we can mention that will wrap it all together, and we'll conclude with this story. So we're going to do the wrap-up first, and then the story. Because if I do the story and then the wrap-up, you lose the story. Okay, so let's do the quick wrap-up. We learned basically two entities today. We learned about a Yehudi. We learned about Klal Yisrael. What's a Yehudi? Haidah, the Chedushei Arim. To constantly praise Hashem. The Ksav Sefer. To praise Hashem even for the small things. The Maram Shik, she was called Yehuda. He was called Yehuda, to always remember the praise. But even deeper is not just to praise, not just to get the school of Yirmiyahu Hanavi, not only to be thankful, and that's the way to connect and get that shidduch and get that job and get that health, but to remember, don't be vatamoi milades, to realize I need to keep on asking for more. Hashem is infinite. He will give and give. Don't sell ourselves short. But then we realize that we have constant challenges and temptations and issues and struggles. They're not issues. That is life itself. The Ikar Mitzi is the main creation of man. Why are we called Klal Yisrael? Because of the Sarisa, because of the battle. The constant battle that puts us on the level that the Malach looks at us and says, what is this? Is this a Malach? Is this an angel? We have to keep on constantly battling and battling. Not falling, but getting back up. And realizing, utilizing our kleiches, utilizing our pachim kitanim, realizing if Hashem gave it to us as a reason, and that will all aid and help us in the battle. And to conclude and to wrap it all up, the following story they claim happened. There was a boy in yeshiva in Eretz Yisrael. He was an incredible boy, 8th grade, top of his class, applied to a top yeshiva, got into the top yeshiva, and he went to the top yeshiva and everything was wonderful. And he's in this yeshiva, and he's working hard, and he's doing great. But in a short amount of time, he realizes, I'm not so special anymore. In his class in 8th grade, he was the top. But now he's in an incredible yeshiva, and everyone's the top. And not only is he not incredible anymore, he realizes, guess what? I'm sort of towards the bottom. I'm working really, really hard. And he sees there are other boys that are learning better than him. And he can't handle it. So he says, you know what? I'll make davening my thing. I'll be like that guy that davens. And he works to wake up a little bit earlier, to push himself in davening. And after a few days, weeks, he looks around and he realizes, guess what? I'm not the best at davening either. I'm not near the top. There's some kids, they just must be natural daveners. Those guys that just come and they just know how to daven, and he's trying, and this guy's. And after a few weeks, a few months, he starts to despair. He starts to realize as he's trying, he's working, he's learning, he's davening, but he doesn't feel anything. So one day, he does what he's never done his entire life. This is a boy, top of the class. And he goes in the middle of the day, and he goes for a walk. He takes off, he leaves the Beis Medrash, he tells his chavrusa, he'll be back in a little bit, and he goes for a walk. And he's roaming the streets of Yerushalayim, just clearing his mind, trying to figure out what, a little ninth grader, a little 14, 15-year-old boy. And he's roaming the streets, and as he's roaming, he sees it's like an old age home or something like that. And, he walks inside, he just finds himself a seat, and he just sits down, he looks around, there's a bunch of old people sitting and learning. Interesting. So, he's a good kid. He likes to learn. So he finds a sefer and he starts learning. Learns a little bit, finishes the day and goes home. The next day, he wakes up on his way to yeshiva, he says, what's the purpose? Why? And then he starts remembering, that old age home was so nice. These old people, they were so calm. And everyone was so smiley. And they were just sitting and learning. You know what, let me go there. So he walks there, takes out a sefer and he sits and learns. Beautiful. And he does this for a few days. And a few days later, some old man comes over to him and says, you clearly don't belong here. Early retirement, I don't know. What's going on? And first the boy was like, and he started, nothing. And he sees this friendly old man, a nice smile, So he starts talking and he starts explaining and then he starts crying. And he starts to tell this old man, I was the best of my class and I really know how to learn but then I went to high school and everything fell apart. What do you mean everything fell apart? What happened? And he starts explaining that I was learning, but I was a nothing. I was just like everyone else. And then I tried to daven, I tried this, and I was nothing. I was a nothing. And the old man is getting very agitated. And this boy, as he finishes crying, telling his story, looks up and he gets a little scared. He thought this was a friendly old man. And the old man stops. And the old man rolls up his sleeve. And he says, you see this? Shows him the numbers on his arm. The boy says, yeah. He says, Hitler said you're a nothing. You're just a number. That's what Hitler said. You're not just a number. You're not a nothing. You're not just one of the boys sitting and learning. You're not just someone else in the class. Don't be like Hitler. I lived through that Gehenim, and I could tell you, you're not just a number. You're so much more than that. And the boy starts crying again, but gets a bit consoled. And he starts talking to old man, and the man is telling him, what do you mean you're a nothing? What do you mean you were sitting in a yeshiva, on the top yeshiva, and you were learning, you're doing everything right? The boy says, yeah, but everyone was better. What do you mean everyone was better than you? What do you mean you were doing everything? What does that mean? That's what Hitler, and he kept on repeating to him. Hitler said we're just a number. We're not just another number. Perhaps the reason that we have such a difficulty constantly thanking Hashem, constantly fighting the struggles, because we don't feel important enough. We sometimes feel like that boy, we're just another person, another house, another family, another number in Klal Yisrael. What am I? I'm not the head of an organization. I'm not speaking at the keynote. I don't have my name in the paper, and I'm not there. So what am I? So what? I should thank Hashem, and I should fight the struggle, and I'm the Malach. No, he's the Malach, and he should thank Hashem. Perhaps if we take the lesson from that old man in the nursing home, perhaps the more that we realize Hitler said you're just a number, we're so much more than that. Every person's Shema, every person's Chesed, Tefillah, Torah, every single struggle and battle brings us to that level of an angel. The angels look from up high and say, what is going on there? What? In the middle of the day, they're taking off to sit and hear Torah? Go to a movie, go to the mall. What are you doing? What are these people? They're not succumbing to the insane world around them. Oh, they all talk how the world is so crazy and so dark and so bleak. Yeah, it is. And the Samach Mem and the Samael is trying to say, but look, they're learning, they're davening. They have beautiful families and they're dealing with their children and they're trying. Are they angels or are they people? The more we remember, we're not just a number. We will, Amir Tashem, reach the level of true angels as we herald in Mashiach. Thank you all for listening.